My wife told everyone I was abusive. She even made fake bruises and screamed for help when I wasn't home. 4 months, I lost friends, my job, and almost my sanity. Last week, her sister sent me videos she secretly took. I played them in court. Today, she's facing 15 years for perjury and fraud. Now she won't stop calling me, begging me not to press charges. If you enjoy the stories, kindly subscribe to help us reach our first 1,000 subscribers. Thank you for being here. I think the worst day of my life was the morning I opened the door to find 3 cops staring me down. One of them asked if I was Shadrach. When I said yes, he slapped cold metal cuffs on my wrists so fast I almost fell backward. Another cop read me my rights. They told me Maya, my wife, had called 911 hysterical, claiming I'd beaten her half to death. Thing is, I wasn't even home that night. I'd been at my friend Dan's house, playing poker until 2 a.m. But when I tried to explain, they just tightened the cuffs and shoved me into the back of the cruiser. I remember the flashing red and blue lights reflecting off our white picket fence. Our neighbors' faces peeking through curtains. The look of horror on Mrs. Patel's face next door. I think that's when I felt something break inside me. They booked me for domestic assault. The mugshot, the fingerprints, the cold holding cell. It was like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I kept thinking, this can't be real. Maya and I argued sometimes, sure, but I'd never laid a finger on her. When they finally let me out on bail the next day, my phone had blown up with missed calls from work, friends, even my parents. Most were messages saying things like, "How could you?" or "I thought I knew you," or just silence. I got home to find our living room a disaster zone. Lamps smashed. Chairs overturned. There was a blood-red stain on the carpet. Maya was sitting on the couch, sobbing into a tissue. Her arm in a sling, bruises all over her face. She looked up at me with wide, terrified eyes. "Why are you here?" she whispered, her voice shaking. "I told them not to let you out. You're dangerous." I tried to talk to her, to beg her to tell the truth. But she just screamed, high-pitched and desperate, like I was about to murder her right there. The next few weeks were a blur. HR called to say I was suspended while they investigated. My closest friends ghosted me overnight. At the supermarket, people stared like I was a monster. One mom even pulled her kid away from me in the cereal aisle. And at home, Maya kept the act going. Anytime I tried to talk to her, she'd start recording on her phone, crying and yelling, "Don't hit me," even if I was standing on the other side of the room. I started sleeping in my car. I didn't trust myself to be in the same house as her. One night, around 3 a.m., I woke up sweating in the driver's seat, heart racing because I'd dreamed the police were back, kicking my door in. I kept thinking, how did we get here? Just 6 months earlier, we'd been planning a vacation to Bali. She'd laughed at my bad cooking, told me I was the only man she'd ever love. One day, my lawyer called me with worse news. He said Maya had filed a restraining order, claiming I'd threatened to kill her. That if I didn't agree to move out immediately, she'd go public with more accusations. I felt like my whole life was slipping through my fingers. My reputation, my job, my sanity. At night, I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was going crazy. If maybe I'd blacked out and done something I couldn't remember. That's how convincing she was. I started doubting myself. The worst part? Even my own mom started to believe it. She called me crying, saying she didn't raise a son who would hurt a woman. Meanwhile, Maya kept posting cryptic updates on Facebook. "Healing is hard, but I'm strong." And, "Love shouldn't hurt." Her friends flooded her comments with heart emojis and messages calling me a monster. Each post felt like another nail in my coffin. Then things got even darker. One night, I woke up to find my tires slashed. A note stuck to my windshield, "Die abuser." That's when I realized it wasn't just about me and Maya anymore. People out there wanted to hurt me. Or worse. I started carrying pepper spray. Looking over my shoulder every time I left work. I moved into a motel across town, paying cash so Maya wouldn't know where I was staying. Every night, I lay awake replaying our relationship in my head. Trying to pinpoint the moment everything changed. Was it when I got the promotion she said she was so proud of? Or the day I told her I wanted kids soon? Because I knew one thing for sure, the woman I married was gone. And the person wearing her face wanted to destroy me. It's been 3 months since the first arrest. 3 months since my world turned inside out. Every day felt heavier than the last. My lawyer kept telling me to stay calm, not to reach out to Maya, not to react to her baiting. But how could I stay calm when the only thing keeping me from prison was a thin thread of hope she'd slip up? One morning, I got an email from my boss. It was official, I'd been fired. The company cited irreparable damage to reputation. Years of loyal work, late nights, missed holidays, all gone. Just like that. I remember staring at my laptop, blinking back tears. I wanted to smash it against the wall. Instead, I closed it, climbed back into the motel bed, and stared at the cracked ceiling until the afternoon sun hit my face. I think that was the first time I felt something close to hopelessness. Later that week, I heard from an old friend, one of the only people who still answered my calls. He said, "I don't know what's going on with you two, man, but Maya's been telling everyone you admitted to beating her. She's even got pictures." Pictures? That word echoed in my head. I'd seen the bruises, sure, but I'd never touched her. The only explanation was that she'd faked them. But how? Makeup? Or something worse? I started Googling. Reading about how people use stage makeup to create injuries. Watching YouTube tutorials on special effects artists making realistic bruises with sponges and eyeshadow. I felt sick. The next night, I drove past our house around midnight, just to see if the lights were on. She was there. She looked normal. As I parked across the street, I saw her silhouette in the window. She was laughing, head tossed back, wine glass in hand. A man stepped into view, his hands on her waist. I felt something inside me snap. I wanted to storm across the street. To drag him outside. To scream, "She's lying." But I knew that's exactly what she wanted. If I lost control, she'd have real proof. Instead, I drove away, hands shaking on the wheel. I stopped at an all-night diner, ordered a coffee I couldn't taste, and sat there until sunrise. The next morning, Maya filed another police report. She claimed I'd been stalking her, circling the block outside our house, peeking into windows. My lawyer called, furious. He said one more incident and I'd be arrested again. I told him the truth, I'd been there but I hadn't approached the house. He sighed like he pitied me and said it didn't matter. Without evidence, it was just my word against hers. And right now, no one believed me. That day, I packed what little I had into my car and drove 5 hours to stay with an uncle I barely knew. I needed to be anywhere but our city. Anywhere but near her. I spent days in a haze, scrolling through old photos of us on my phone. Our wedding day. Our first anniversary dinner. The selfies from when we adopted our dog Max. She looked so happy. Or was she pretending even then? I started to question everything. Then last week my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something in me needed to hear a human voice. It was Maya's sister, Grace. Her voice was low, urgent. "Shadrach, I'm so sorry," she said, words tumbling out. "I've been trying to work up the courage to call you. I don't know if this helps, but I've got something you need to see." My heart nearly stopped. "What do you mean?" She said she'd been suspicious for a while. That Maya told her stories that didn't add up. That she saw Maya in the bathroom one night, dabbing purple makeup on her own face, practicing her cry in the mirror. Grace had started recording secretly, afraid of what Maya might do. She told me she had videos. Multiple clips. Dates, times, everything. She sent them to me that night. I watched in stunned silence as Maya rehearsed crying. As she painted bruises. As she called her friends, gleefully describing what she'd tell police. At one point, Maya laughed, leaning into the camera, whispering, "Shadrach will never see this coming. He'll be rotting in jail before he knows what hit him." I felt like I couldn't breathe. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped my phone. I picked it up and replayed the videos over and over until the battery died. Finally, I had proof. The next day, I met with my lawyer in person. He watched the videos in stony silence, then looked up at me with a mix of anger and relief. "This changes everything," he said. We filed an emergency motion with the court. A hearing was scheduled 2 days later. I barely slept. I kept imagining the look on Maya's face when the judge saw what she'd done. When the day came, I walked into the courthouse feeling like I was carrying a mountain on my shoulders. Maya was already there, dressed in a pale blouse, hair curled perfectly, arms still in a sling for dramatic effect. She looked up, eyes wide. For a split second there was fear. Then she composed herself, wiping away a fake tear. The hearing started. My lawyer handed over a flash drive with the videos. The judge's assistant loaded them onto the courtroom monitor. The first clip played. Maya, dabbing purple makeup under her eye, giggling. The second clip, Maya calling her friend, bragging about how believable she looked. The third, Maya practicing screams, then suddenly stopping to adjust her hair. I watched the judge's face go from bored to horrified. The prosecutor stood up, demanded the videos be authenticated. Grace came forward, trembling, and testified she'd taken them herself. Maya's lawyer tried to object. Said the videos were taken without consent. But the judge waved him off. He turned to Maya, voice cold and sharp. "Ms. Maya, do you have any explanation for these recordings?" Maya's face crumpled. She stammered, I don't know what those are." Someone must have edited. The judge interrupted her. Enough. In that moment the room felt frozen. Silent except for the pounding of my heart. Then the judge announced he was dismissing all charges against me, and that Maya would be taken into custody immediately for perjury and fraud. 2 bailiffs stepped forward, handcuffs in hand. I watched as they cuffed her the same way they'd cuffed me months ago. She looked at me, eyes wild, lips mouthing something I couldn't hear. I should have felt triumphant, but all I felt was empty. They led her out of the courtroom. My lawyer clapped me on the shoulder. Grace hugged me, whispering I'm so sorry over and over. But even as the doors closed behind Maya, I knew this wasn't over. After the hearing, word spread like wildfire. The same friends who'd blocked me started sending texts saying they were so glad I was okay, or how they'd always known something was off about Maya. I ignored them. Their words felt hollow. Where were they when I needed them? A local paper picked up the story. Wife faces 15 years for faking abuse, framing husband. The headline went viral. My inbox exploded. Some messages were supportive, but others accused me of faking the videos, said I must have driven her to do it. That I wasn't as innocent as I claimed. I realized then that once your reputation is destroyed, you never get it back completely. The next few days were surreal. I finally stepped back into my house, police escort by my side, to retrieve what was left of my life. The place felt haunted. Torn photos. Shattered picture frames. Clothes slashed. Our dog Max was gone. Maya had given him away. That broke me more than anything. I spent hours sitting on the floor of our bedroom, numb, remembering how I once thought this place would be where we'd raise kids, grow old together. Then my phone rang. Maya's name lit up the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Over the next few hours she called 27 times. Each message more frantic than the last. Shadrach, please, I'm so sorry. I wasn't in my right mind. Then, you don't know what you're doing. If you testify, I'll go to prison. I need you. And later, you bastard. I'll ruin you for this. The messages swung between desperate begging and seething rage. I saved every single one. My lawyer said pressing charges was my decision. The DA was already moving forward, but my testimony could seal her fate, or spare her. Grace asked me to show mercy. Said Maya needed help, not prison. I spent nights staring at the ceiling, replaying every lie, every bruise she painted on her skin. Every time I woke up drenched in sweat, convinced the cops were at my door again. A week later, I sat across from the prosecutor. He asked one question: do you want to testify? I thought of the people who'd called me a monster. Of the job I lost. The nights I slept in my car, convinced I was going insane. The way Maya smiled in those videos, savoring my destruction. Yes, I said quietly. I want to testify. In court, Maya looked thinner, her eyes hollow. Her lawyer kept saying she was mentally ill, that she deserved treatment, not punishment. When I took the stand, I told the jury everything. From the night I was arrested to the night I got Grace's videos. How I felt like I was losing my mind. How I almost ended my own life when I thought there was no way out. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I spoke slowly, carefully, feeling every word like it was a knife. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Then they came back with a unanimous verdict. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Maya to 15 years for perjury, fraud, and filing false police reports. As they led her away, she stared at me. Her eyes weren't pleading anymore. They were empty. I walked out of that courtroom feeling like I'd finally woken up from a nightmare. The sun felt warmer than I remembered. The air tasted fresh. But there was no celebration. Just a quiet ache. I moved to a new city a month later, found work with an old college friend who knew the truth. I got a tiny apartment and started therapy. I still flinch when someone raises their voice. I still wake up some nights reaching for a phone I think the cops will call. But I'm alive. And free. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Grace hadn't been brave enough to record those videos. If I'd gone to prison for something I didn't do. If I'd survived it at all. I've learned people can hide darkness behind the brightest smiles. That love can turn into a weapon sharper than any knife. But I've also learned there's hope. That the truth can still cut through the worst lies. And that even when you think you're alone, someone out there might just save your life.